Okay, for this tutorial I want to show you how to convert a Max patch into a Max for Live device. This is our sample looper with range. It was a previous tutorial we were working through, and we added a few interface elements. We're using these live dials, so the next logical progression for it would be to turn it into a Max for Live device. It's super easy. I've got Ableton open, so let's just jump over to Ableton, and if I go to Max for Live and Max Instrument, you've got options of Max Audio Effect, Instrument or MIDI Effect. Essentially they are all variations on the same thing. They all create a new Max device. The audio ones have audio input and output as a predefined element. The instruments have MIDI input and audio output, and the MIDI effects have MIDI in and MIDI out. That's the only difference between them. So we're going to use a Max instrument. Let's just load up a new blank one, drag and drop it in, or double click, up to you. And here it is, and that's what I was talking about there. So it's MIDI from live, so it's MIDI in and audio out. And because we've got Max for Live, we click on that button and it opens up into Max. And now we can start building. How do you go from that to that? Well, you can probably imagine. Unlock your patch, Command A to select everything, Command C to copy, go over to the Max instrument, maybe make it a little bit bigger, and then Command V, and it pastes it all in. So we've just pasted our Max patch in there. What are the things we need to change? Well, really the only thing for this patch that I definitely need to change is the audio output. Previously I had the Easy DAC, which is the Easy Digital to Analog Converter. That allows you to connect the patch to your audio interface, but we don't want to connect it directly to the audio interface. We want it to go out from Max into a channel in Ableton. So we use this plug out, and they've already given it to us here. I'm not going to use any MIDI. I'm actually going to just delete that. Boink, gone. Grab that, and let's move it down to the audio output of my patch. I'm going to delete this one because we're not using it. And let's put that in its place. So plug out is where we get audio from our patch and send it to Ableton. Channel 1 out to channel input, and channel 2 out to channel 2 in. Easy, that's it. So we've connected our audio. If we click onto presentation mode, we already created this kind of presentation earlier on in the patch, and actually it seems to conform to the device vertical limit that you get. This is the absolute height that we're allowed in Ableton. So I'm just looking at our device conforms to that, so that's fine. Let's save it. So File, Save As, and let's call it Sample Ranger. I've already saved the previous version. So give it a name. It will automatically go into your user library in the Max Instrument folder. So call it whatever you want. Save. Replace mine. Great. And now when we close it, and I'm just going to close my old one. Hang on a minute. So we've got a presentation page, but it's not opening in the presentation. This is the patching window, and that's clearly not what we want. So let's go back into our patch by clicking the edit button, the Max for Live editor. And how do we make it load in presentation mode like that? You have to go to the inspector. So anywhere in a blank bit of page, if you right click and go to the inspector window, turn all on and have a look down through all these different options, and you'll find one that says open in presentation. Of course, you could filter it and just type presentation there and it will filter them all and makes it easy to find. So open in presentation, we want to check that checkbox so that whenever this patch opens, it always opens in presentation mode or view. Great, we can close that. Let's save it. File, save, and close that. And now we see it in presentation mode. Good. So does it work? Well, let's just try sample library. I'm going to grab a little recording here, drop it on. Cool, yeah, so it works. I think I might want to adapt it a little bit. Now we're in Ableton, I'd quite like it that if it would start and stop together with the Ableton Transport. So when we press play in Ableton, our looper just starts playing. So let's add that to our patch. If we open back up, go into our patching view. We've talked about the transport before. In Macs, there's an object called transport. If you start typing transport there, and if we look at the help file, right click, open transport help, we can find out how to run Max's transport, the global transport. But when we're using Max in Ableton Live, Max for Live device, Ableton overrides the Max transport. So we actually need to get Max to look at Ableton's transport. Luckily, within the transport box, there's a little tab here for Max for Live, and there's a demo on how you can observe Live's transport. And actually, this is exactly what we want. It looks at Ableton's transport and it lights the box if it's on, or it's dark if it's off. What I'm going to do, unlock this. I'm just going to steal that. So highlight the bit that we want, copy and paste into ours. Let's just first see if this bit works. I'm going to add that little light to presentation. Where does it put it? Yeah, it's just, maybe let's just stick it on the end there. And because what I want to do is save the project and close it. Just going to close that help file as well. Great, so there it is. Let's just test it to see if it works. So press play. We may need to actually get rid of it completely and reload it. Sample Ranger. There it is. Great, it works. The reason I needed to get rid of it and then reload it was because, I'm not sure if you noticed, if we go back into it, there's this load bang which triggers the Max for Live API. It only triggers it when the patch loads. Sometimes you get this and a Max patch has to be closed and then reopened for it all to reinitialize to get it working. So if you've done that and it doesn't work first time, that's usually the reason. Like most IT support, turning it off and on again always gets it running. Great, so we know this light is lighting when the transport is on and off. How can we make this start and stop our loop? Well, here I've got a start loop command. I'm going to get another message box and put in a stop command. So there's my start and stop buttons. I want it to, whenever this lights up, or whenever it sends a 1, I want it to start the loop. And whenever this is dark, I want it to stop the loop. We can use a little object. There's a variety of ways we could do this, but I'm going to show you this object. It's called select, or cell for short. And I'm going to look for a 1 and a 0 directly out of here. So if we just come directly out of that, let's save that and close it and drag in a new sample. Great, so that's working. Let's get some other. So press play. And when we stop live, it stops. Great. Not sure if you noticed, I was dragging and dropping directly onto the waveform viewer there. That is quite a nice feature that is already active. We could do away with this drag and drop box altogether. There's a variety of other ways that you could make this interface better for Ableton. Notice there's a lot of blank space here. It's quite a wide object at the moment. We probably don't need that much width. It might get annoying if you start to add in a few audio effects. You don't want to be having to scroll left and right. So when you're laying out your interface, take influence from their existing stock plugins. Notice how many functions and controls they manage to pack into a small amount of space. So be economic, try and cram as much as you can into a small amount of space. If you are running low on space, then, and as an example, let's get the sampler, load it onto a new track. So if you're running low on space, of course there's tabbed browsing that you can do. So you can have different tabs in there. And I've done a tutorial on this. I'll link it in the video. Great. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. It's very easy to convert a Max patch, which is a standalone patch, into a Max for Live device, which will work within Ableton. So when you're building your devices, get ideas from existing things as well. Not sure if you've been keeping up, let's save. Keeping up with the free things that are being given away on Ableton's site, but there are some really nice things, packs to download. One of them that I recommend you definitely get is this Creative Extensions. It's for Ableton Live 10. In it, it has some really interesting things, particularly in the audio effects. There's this thing called Pitch Hack and also Color Limiter. They're amazing on beats. If we just get some kind of beat quickly. So we've got our little Rhythmace beat. If we add in one of these things like the Pitch Hack onto it, it's a Max for Live device. And let's perhaps do -8 semitones. It's got a dry wet balance. Let's gradually bring it in. You can hear it kind of gives you really nice pitched, shuffly type. And depending on the amount of semitones you're adjusting it. The recycle is really nice. That gives you a kind of a pitched, either rising pitch or falling pitch. It's a delay repeat. When you find a thing that you like, maybe let's get Color Limiter on there as well. If you find something that you like, device-wise, if it's Max for Live, just click the edit button, open it up, unfreeze it so you can actually do stuff with it, and have a look to see how they've done certain things. It might give you some ideas about how to lay things out, how to create interesting controls. The pitch hack has quite a nice interface there that you could perhaps look at and see how it works. Great, so mainly focusing on building your Max for Live devices if that's the way you are heading with this.